Tell me about the weekend when you took over as the CEO.
I think things were moving too fast to really process it. The whole events that transpired here, it's a very long saga.
What was it like for you to build a team at Windsurf? You were there through multiple pivots.
I feel like my whole career I was just not very good at anything, but a little bit okay at everything. And maybe.
Why do you say the work that happens at Windsurf is in a very competitive space?
Engineers are very hard to find. Their work is very important. And typically at any organization, that's where the most bottleneck is.
You keep repeating go fast. What do you mean by go fast?
The main thing is to build something that you know people will use that solves a big problem, but where the technology is not quite there yet.
My question to you is a very direct question. How does one lead without having all the information?
I mean, the real answer is
China is winning the AI war or US is winning the AI war. This debate continues. What is your take?
I think we're getting to an inflection point where
Welcome to another fantastic episode of Ctrl Alt podcast. This is a place where we bring trailblazers in Silicon Valley. What kind of trailblazers? People who define technology, people who show you what the future should be like by architecting it today here in the Valley. I'm so privileged and honored to have with me the CEO of Windsurf. This company is creating the future of software engineering. If you see a lot of companies, 90% of the code is being written by AI, and people like our guest of honor today is making this happen. Without further ado, let's bring on Jeff Wang, CEO of Windsurf. Jeff, welcome to Ctrl Alt podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And this might be like the last thing filmed in this office. We're about to move to San Francisco, so and it's like kind of all cleared out here. So yeah, this is the last media thing.
Yeah, wonderful. This must be a momentous time because I get to be here in this campus. It's beautiful. You'll get to see a few snapshots on the podcast. So Jeff, tell me, how are you feeling? You're moving to San Francisco, and are you feeling nostalgic because Windsurf was born here in Mountain View? And what are you feeling right now?
A little bit nostalgic. I think what has happened though is with the merger with Cognition, it has felt like kind of two companies, and I'm excited to kind of bridge it into one unified company in the city. Mm-hmm. And how I feel today is a little bit sick. So if I'm a little bit congested, that's the explanation.
Yeah. So Jeff has been working all through the week, even though he's sick. And I don't know, you must have had countless meetings. Yesterday when I called you, you were on a call and then you had a meeting with me, so great. Tell me about the weekend when you took over as the CEO. What was that like in your perspective? How did that make you a CEO? Here you were head of business at Windsurf, and you really had to pull yourself together to get into the shoes of the CEO, and you were the first time on the board. There were 3 people on the board. Everything was the first time. How did you manage that?
I think things were moving too fast to really process it. Mm-hmm. The whole events that transpired here, it's a very long saga with OpenAI and Anthropic, and then Microsoft and Google, and then obviously with Cognition later. That whole saga just unfolded within, just the end part was only a few days, but it had happened over a couple months. It was crisis after crisis. And again, it wasn't about just processing it. It was more about like, what do we need to do to get to the outcome that is like a win-win solution for everybody. And I think even with this whole becoming CEO, the first thing in my head was not just like, there's a lot of weight on my shoulders, but what is the outcome that we can like achieve that everybody can win, and getting all the options on the table.
Wonderful. So Jeff, if I look at your profile, you've been a jack of all trades, not to undermine the expertise you've gained. You've been a program manager, you've been a solutions architect, you've been VP of product, entrepreneur in residence, investor. So you've worn so many hats. What was it like for you to build a team at Windsurf? You came in, and then there were 1 million users in 4 months. You saw the growth rate. You were there through multiple pivots. So tell me, what kind of leaders are fit to rule in this day and age? Because gone are the days where you did one subject and then you mastered it and then you became an expert in that and then you rose to the corporate ladder. So tell me about the side of Jeff who's ready to take on things, and here you are in the seat of the CEO.
I feel like my whole career I was just not very good at anything, but a little bit okay at everything. And maybe that's how this whole startup to where we're at happened. It meant that in the beginning, you do wear a lot of hats, and you kind of have to be willing to take on any role, really. Any type of thing that happens at the company, somebody has to do it. It's not just like, oh, we'll just give it to some other person. Like at a big company, there's always somebody else that can probably do that role, right? So that was me. I was always the person that, again, like we have to build a, let's say, finance and legal team. We have to build a partnerships team or a recruiting team. I was the first person they'll turn to because it was always, yeah, Jeff can probably figure it out. And he'll be also willing to hire somebody else to replace him. I think that was one interesting fact was I was always kind of getting rid of my job at every given moment in the company until there was no jobs, I guess, to get rid of.
So Jeff, I've spoken to you so long, and I feel you have very high emotional quotient. It's a very important part of hiring, keeping talent, transitioning talent into new roles. How did you acquire this, or what is good emotional intelligence according to you?
That's a good question. I think the reason why I have it is because we were very intellectually honest here. So meaning if I did something really dumb, people would tell me. And they'd say, Jeff, why did you say that? It was really dumb. And over time, you just learn over and over again. And that kind of culture might be shocking to a few people that might never have any criticism. And over time, again, if you get criticized for things that you can improve on, you eventually can build a muscle for saying the right things at the right time. And also, like, there's information asymmetry. Sometimes something happens at the top, you cannot just like say it to everybody. You have to like give little bits of information to the right amount of people as well. And all of this has happened by just being thrown into the fire, talking to a lot of customers, trying to get things to the finish line and unblocking things, making people mad, and then again, figuring things out by just trial and error, I guess.
Yeah, so there you are. You've summarized the typical startup journey, but not to forget you're an MBA from UC Berkeley, one of the best colleges in the country, in the world today. What kind of edge did that give you, leverage did that give you when you joined Windsurf in a lead business role?
I'm pretty sure when I joined Windsurf, they thought that was not a good school, by the way. They're all very, very smart here when I joined. I think the biggest edge is just the network. The people that I met within the program, I joined and created startups with, actually. So I think maybe the 2 or 3 next jobs I had were all because of people I met at the Berkeley program.
Wonderful. So let's talk about Windsurf. You met Varun and Doug was it through introductions or networking, or were you also coding on your own and figuring out what the next era of coding would look like? How did that meeting of the minds happen?
So before I met them, I knew that AI was going to be the next big thing.
How did you know that?
I actually did a lot of AI like testing at Salesforce, and at Salesforce there was a lot of work that went into very specific outcome for the model. So like if you have a model that's positive or negative sentiment, you had to put a lot of data just to train that kind of model. And if there was a model, for example, to separate the ticket classification or something, you had to build that model, and it would take a long time as well. And when GPT from OpenAI came out with an API, you could actually just plug in anything and it'll like give you the answer. And this was like out way before ChatGPT. This was like just blew me away. And then the second thing that happened was Stable Diffusion came out with an image model. And the image model, you can generate any image you could think of from like a 4 gigabyte file. It blew me away again. I actually bought like a bunch of like 4090 GPUs just to keep testing these models out. Llama came out from Meta. That was, I think, about a 20 gigabyte file. And that, again, had all the world's knowledge, all the books, you could ask any question, it would give you the answer. So this combination of things constantly blowing my mind. I was just positive I had to get into AI. And I saw on, actually a friend of mine, Tom, said like, hey, there's a post from this VC asking for the first business hire for a very early stage startup. And I jumped on top of that, immediately started writing a blog just to prove that I could at least do something, because like who's going to hire like a random business guy from nowhere, right? And I started showing these like experiments that I did. So I'll give you an example. I took a chat room for finance discussions, about 3 gigabytes of text, and then I fine-tuned a Llama model to show me like what each personality would say.
Wow.
And published that on a blog. And then I applied through the intro, just to show like, hey, I'm not just some random person, right? And basically, like, when I walked in the office, I remember the first thing someone said was like, hey, it's the guy that fine-tuned the chat room data. So I was at least had some credibility. But then the first discussion was with Varun and Anshul, and that just led to working with them after that.
Amazing. Yeah. So you're pretty hands-on, is what I would say. You're a person who's capable of pulling off a very good demo. So and it was in your it's in your DNA. You didn't have to join Windsurf per se. You were already meddling with technology. So you're a very hands-on person who can also sell business, who can architect solutions. So that's your background. So if you were to look at yourself as a CEO, what percentage of you is technical? What percentage of you is salesy? What percentage of you is in the future? How do you classify your the weightage of your?
I would say nowadays it's very much salesy. Depends on the audience. There could be an audience of engineers, and just getting hands-on with the tools and finding the right outcomes and solutions for them, that would be more like 80% technical. Yeah. And then when you talk to, again, CEOs, CIOs of other companies, that's probably 90% salesy instead. Like you're really just trying to get into the root problem of their organization, and then getting that feedback back to the engineers at Cognition to try to build the right product, solve the right problems. Yeah.
So that's why your solution architect hat, you kind of wear it.
Perhaps. I've been thrown into so many random situations now that it could just be any one of those hats could work probably.
Amazing. No, I'm just trying to get a feel for what it's like to run one of the hottest AI startups in Silicon Valley, and you just now described it as very competitive. Why do you say the work that happens at Windsurf is in a very competitive space? If you want to start with what Windsurf does, and why is it like so hot, this space?
Well, I'll start with why it's hot, because software engineers are very expensive. The work they do is very valuable.
You mean the AI software engineers?
I'm just saying in general, like engineers are very hard to find. They're very, their work is very important. And typically at any organization, that's where the most bottleneck is. It's like, hey, I have this idea, I want to put it into the project, and then the project gets stuck at engineering a lot of the times, right? So it's a very, very valuable use case. So at Windsurf and at Cognition in general, we're trying to make this go to zero, this like writing code part, but we're also thinking about the software engineer. Like we want to build the future of software engineering. So if a software engineer has to plan a project, or if they write the code and they submit the code, right? There's this whole like bunch of other things the software engineer does that Windsurf and Devin now are trying to solve.
Yeah, so tell me who your competitors are, and then we can go deeper into what's happening inside Cognition, like your product lines and how Windsurf integrated into Cognition and such. But first, let's see the competitive landscape. What are you up against? You literally butt heads with OpenAI, Microsoft, you name it, Google, all the companies out there. So
yeah, everybody is trying to get into the coding space. Actually, there's a good reason for it as well.
Why is it hard?
Yeah, so not just because coding is valuable, but the way you can do reinforcement learning on top of code and validate the outputs are good is extremely verifiable with code. Like code can compile, you can see how efficient it is, you can see if it passes a certain number of unit tests. You can also, there's a lot of public code out there to compare against, right? So code itself is an amazing use case to get good AI out of, but it's also a very valuable use case. So that's why everybody is like all trying to gun for this space. And in terms of competitors, obviously Windsurf and Cursor clash all the time. And then now we're even seeing these foundational model companies come out with their own versions of Windsurf and Devin. For example, Claude has Claude Code, OpenAI has Codex. Now we're seeing other players just like come in every week. And honestly, it's so competitive that someone that was like extremely famous or popular maybe like 3 months ago might be completely forgotten today. It's really brutal out there. But the way we stay ahead, of course, is having a very, very smart team, building very fast, and thinking about what foundations that we can differentiate from the other players out there.
Yeah, so let's look at the way it worked at Windsurf. You had a very strong research and development arm, and then you yourself led the business arm, which was very strong. You had 1 million users in like 4 months, or if I'm correct. So that's like exceptional, exponential growth in usage, product-led growth, if you can call it. The product is so good that people are adopting, and you're also architecting the GTM. So how did your company gain moat? Like, what was the R&D part? Like, why are you so different in terms of R&D? What is the parameters?
I honestly think it's the team. I can't take any credit for this. I just had a lot of smart people at the company doing both go-to-market, marketing, and of course engineering, right? Having all these people that are smart in place, going fast and staying aligned on the goal was probably the secret. I think a lot of times someone comes in, they have a very different alignment of where things should go. And I think seeing the momentum of a lot of the pivots that we made, especially Windsurf, like the innovation in Windsurf was like...
You were a GPU virtualization company, right? You virtualized GPUs, and then later on you moved to being you're not a coding company, you're software engineering.
Right, so Varun and Douglas, they started a GPU virtualization company first, then jumped into Codium, which was an AI coding solution. And to really kind of establish ourselves as a real player, we actually started on-prem. So we actually went out to sell.
What is on-prem?
It means that the entire solution is on a server that the customer can have internally.
Wow.
So they can host it in the cloud or host it on a box in the middle, in the corner of the room. And we were the only like really good solution out there. And people were, and that made it easy for us to win our first customers. I wouldn't say easy, but it made it possible, I should say.
Yeah, so it was secure, it's private, and then so, you gave so this is right away enterprise grade. You jumped into the enterprise bandwagon.
Lots of security questionnaires that guided the product actually. So the security questionnaires was like the product spec, essentially, right? You have to pass these things. And of course, just having thousands of meetings with different customers and understanding what the problem was, what things that we could solve and build into Codium at the time, and eventually Windsurf. That was a part of the journey too. It's a lot of interactions.
Wonderful. And if you look along those lines, what do you do at Cognition today that integrates with Devin? Devin is the AI software engineer. So how did that journey merge into Cognition?
Yeah. Oh well, obviously there's a whole story behind the merger itself, which again, thinking about who the best partner was, and thinking about where Windsurf and Devin did not overlap. Meaning like Windsurf could have probably joined a number of other companies, but with Devin, you had like two solutions that almost cover every use case, right? So Windsurf itself is where you write the code and you're steering an agent to the outcome. And Devin is an agent that's in the cloud and it could run any number of times for any number of use cases, but most likely a use case that's very repetitive and can take a long time. And you don't want to take a long time when you're in Windsurf. You don't want to sit there and watch the screen move, right? You want for those use cases, you hand it off to Devin. I forgot the original question now. So,
no. This was the original question. I think we branched out a lot. That's good discussion. But there are a lot of things to learn from you. So I'm going to ask you those questions. You came in as the head of business and you started handling a technology solution. So you demoed a technology solution by yourself. There was no engineer at these demos per se. You were handling it on your own. How did you win over the technology geeks? You coming from a business major, and your positioning was head of business, because a lot of these operator kind of CEOs struggle with that. How do I win over the technology folks, the technology analysts? They're always beaten down and say, you're running the ship like you're running a business, but this is a tech company, you're ignoring it. So what is the learning there? How should a operator-minded CEO communicate with the software engineering team so they can sell and they can grow the business?
I think you need a couple things. One is you have to use the product a lot. You have to dog food the product. You have to experience the pain and the second thing is you have to talk to the customers a lot. You have to understand all the different use cases that they can encounter, and honestly get clarification for the things that you don't know. And eventually you just talk to so many different engineers and see all the different types of use cases that eventually it's okay. You can talk to future engineers and run into the same problems and give the same answers. And obviously there will always be new problems that come out. And then I have to work with the engineering team to, again, understand what that problem is and can the tool do it. And it's like a feedback loop that goes over and over. And after you do this again 1,000 times, it helps give some credibility when you talk to customers.
Wonderful. No, this is a great lesson. So it's about how does a CEO manage his calendar? Are you spending all your time closing deals, or are you spending time with engineering? Did you spend time with customer success? Do you know what they're saying about the pain points your product is creating? After it's been deployed, so those kind of. So how does your calendar look like? What do you spend most of your time on?
It is completely random nowadays. I could be traveling somewhere to meet with customers or even government officials, or I can be embedded with the team here to just figure out what the business processes are going on. What's the data here? Like, what are the deficiencies across the organization? Yep. But I spend a lot of my time aligning myself across the company, but also unlocking new initiatives in other regions or other types of kind of customer verticals.
Yeah, and what keeps you up at night?
I mean, there's always so much happening outside of Cognition. So if there's competitors creating something that could be something that we need to go up against, it could be that AI itself becomes so advanced that there's no moats anymore that anybody could just build from ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
It could be a lot of things that are out of our control. So we just focus on what is in our control and try to go faster than everybody else.
Yeah, so the name Windsurf, and you keep repeating go fast. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by go fast? Give a couple of scenarios. Like, where are the traditional CEOs going slow? Where do you think you went fast? I know that your benchmark for a pivot is always, you don't want to hit a ceiling. You don't want linear growth. You want exponential growth. You mentioned that in your interviews. But what does speed mean to you?
Well, I think the main thing is to build something that people will use that solves a big problem, but where the technology is not quite there yet, believe it or not. And I'll give you two examples, Windsurf and Devin, right? Devin came out at a time where the models were not ready yet. A lot of people said, hey, Devin doesn't seem to work, and they're making fun of it. But now the models have gotten to the point where everybody wishes they built something like Devin, right? To have a model that just goes on long-running things and accesses multiple different data sources and just tries very hard to accomplish the task. That was not something people wanted to do a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And then Windsurf, again, was taking the prompt, putting it back into the model, get the output. Again, you have a planner and you do the tasks and everything, but putting that in is a lot of tokens, and nobody would have thought of that of being something that would work until the release. It came out in November. It came out about a year ago. And that's when the models just got good enough to make that possible.
And it sold like hotcakes.
It sold like hotcakes. And now there's all these other use cases like browser use and computer use that, again, we're building towards a world where those models are perfect. Yeah. And now they're not perfect right now. But when they are, we'll be ready for it when it comes out.
Yeah. So I think this is a very valuable suggestion. You are not yet ready, but still you have to keep pushing. The end goal is not clear, but still you take a shot. I think that's your approach. You
got to take a shot where the outcome is high probability, I guess. It's
hard to go.
Yeah, it's hard to do, to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, my question to you is a very direct question. How does one lead without having all the information? How do you lead? You led 250 people into accelerated vesting, right? The 72 hours of Windsurf acquisition. That's a lot of high stakes leadership, and everything you say, how you converse with your team, everything matters. But you have very less information whether this will work or not. So what is your secret sauce to leading with less information? AI is like that. We don't know where it's headed, but still you're leading. So what is your mantra? How do you work?
I mean, the real answer is I don't know the outcome, but I have to do the thing that makes the most sense at the time. Say the right thing at the right moment. Open up the number of possibilities and outcomes if you don't have the information, right? So you can't make up things. You can't just say everything is going to be fine and this is the outcome we're going to achieve. You can say in that day it was very empathetic, hey, this sucks, and it's going to take you this whole weekend to process, and I feel what you guys are feeling. Yeah. And here's the plan that we're going to try to do, and we're going to leave all doors open. And at least saying stuff like that is genuine, empathetic, and also opens the doors for all the possibilities, right? Yeah. And a lot of things were happening that weekend where recruiters are trying to contact all the employees. We have customers saying that what the heck is going on, but having being on the same page as everybody, aligning everybody to the same goal, making sure you're hearing everybody, what was the goal. Even though I have no idea what the outcome is, that's what you got to focus on while you figure out the outcomes.
This is amazing. I mean, a great leadership lesson. I'll definitely take this home with me. On that note, let's look at the leadership on the geopolitical level. Mm-hmm. They say that China is winning the AI war, or US is winning the AI war. This debate continues, and it's getting high-stake policies which impact AI companies in the United States. What is your take on the AI race? Who's winning, and what is that leadership looking like? Are they also shooting with certainty in the dark, or how does that?
Well, I think there's a shift now from scaling laws. So in the past, building as many GPUs, as many flops as possible was the race. And the bigger you build, the better the model you get. I think we're getting to an inflection point where there's more kind of research needed now. Like there's more things that can make the model better, that are less expensive. And China is actually the one kind of unveiling those, because they're all open source. They're all sharing the data with each other, sharing it with America too. I mean, America, we read their research papers too and learn a lot from what they're doing. So China is like forced to do this because they don't have access to as good of GPUs, right? And they also actually they're at an advantage that they don't have to serve that many users yet too. So when you look at OpenAI and Anthropic, they have to use a lot of their compute to serve the customers, whereas China can use it all for research right now. They want to switch away from that, by the way. China wants to be a legitimate player. They want to monetize it. They want to figure out how they can actually participate. But the problem is, because they went into all this efficiency and they probably avoided copyright stuff, it's going to take some time to earn their trust, right? Like, I think people are a little bit scared to send their code to a China API for now. So some time needs to pass to earn that trust. So I think America is still winning. China, they're figuring out all the crazy research and efficiencies, but they haven't figured out how to grab the revenue and the user share. That's a gap right now.
I think it's a pretty holistic view, because I've been seeing headlines that China is going to win the race. I mean, I don't know how credible these headlines are, but they're going around. But this is a great use case. I mean, you've given a very holistic overview. On that note, one thing, last week's announcement of Gemini 3, the Nano Banana Pro, it's creating a lot of waves. So the TPU usage from Google, it seems to be cutting into the GPU market. Is that a lesson to everyone to build their own infrastructure ground up, like own your own hardware, your own silicon, your own stack, or what do you think about that?
I think the world is going to go towards more ASIC type chips. So I think the world is going to go more towards more application specific chips. They call it ASICs, but TPUs is a form of a different type of GPU that's meant for very specific AI workloads. And that is more efficient, but it's less flexible. So with NVIDIA, these chips can be used for a lot of different types of things, training or inference. But if you do build a chip only for inference, it will be cheaper to build. It will be probably more efficient. And what I see happening is it doesn't matter. Everybody is running out of silicon and everybody's running out of capacity. So as long as you have a chip that can run a workload, somebody is going to probably use it for now. Eventually, we could also run out of money across. Everyone's starting to borrow money now to build these data centers and to even run workloads they're taking money into. So we'll see how that unfolds.
And any take on quantum and technologies where data is being processed in space? Have you thought about those things? Data centers in space, the vision.
I get it. We're still pretty far out from that happening. But the funny thing is, even building a data center on land will take 2 years, 3 years even, and getting enough power and all that, setting that up is going to take a long time. So data centers in space, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years out. It's actually not that far away after even today's data centers are built out, right?
So amazing. As we wrap up, do you want to say something about the roadmap for Windsurf at Cognition? I know this merger is working out amazing. You're moving to SF, new office, new culture. What is the roadmap looking like? You've got this whole bunch of enterprise customers. What are you thinking? How do you steer the ship now?
There's a lot of things that we've released recently that are foundational. So I'll give you an example. As we released a very fast search model, which is 20x faster than any other agentic search out there. There's nobody else that's doing this. So just like crawling very large code bases and really understanding the code base is something that we've built a foundational piece. The second is fast models. So we've released models that are 13 times faster than even the Anthropic models. And the speed of the model really changes the experience. Like I can say something to build and it's done. Like literally within seconds, whatever I want to build is there. And that unlocks a whole bunch of types of features that we will soon show to the world. We can't talk about it too soon yet. But my point I'm trying to bring is we're building a lot of foundational pieces now that are already out. And soon you'll see a lot of outcomes from those types of features.
Wonderful. And are you hiring, are you raising, or what is your...
Can't talk too much about the raises, but like the hiring, we're always hiring whatever the top-notch talent is out there. In fact, like it's actually very difficult to get hired here. So if you think you're up to test, I think like it's like the bar is just very high. After
Varun and Doug have set the standards.
I think Scott Wu has set an even higher bar actually.
Oh, is that
right?
Yeah.
Okay. But my point is like this is like the most competitive space in the most competitive space, right? AI coding within AI, and that requires like very, very different types of personas. And
so tell me top three things the listeners who send their resumes to you should think about.
Well, I will look personally at the non-qualitative things. Like I think they're obviously looking at people that have graduated from good schools, competed in math Olympiads. I'm personally looking for people that are going beyond what is the scope of what's asked of them, and people that are very proactive, people that can be very self-sufficient, right? That's very hard to find from a resume, right? But I think that outside of the resume, that's what I personally look at.
Wonderful. So on that note, I hate to keep you anymore. You have a lot of things to do. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Any message on Thanksgiving Eve before we sign off?
I would just say try out the tools. There's a lot of like generous free tiers out there. The highest leverage skill set is going to be knowing the barriers and limitations of these tools. And when there's a world where you're delegating agents to different types of work, that's when the skills can become very important. Right now, we're still in the very beginning. Like I said, like there's these other features that are coming out of these new models that are not even, no startup is taking advantage of it yet. Obviously, we're looking into it. But there's a lot more coming from not just us, but from the whole world of AI. And the best thing you can do is just try these tools out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. And it's been an amazing conversation. And we'd love to have you back and see what Cognition is up to and what Windsurf is doing.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.